I'm back, and I'm really glad you got that Bible out today because hi, how are you?
Hi.
Sorry, I came in a little hot.
Yeah.
So, let me tell you why. So, we've been talking about spiritual gifts and how God gives all of us spiritual gifts. Wait a minute, pause. I'm going to say a quick prayer because I need to calm down and focus.
Okay.
Dear God, help us always to put you first, to stay focused on your word, and to help us remember you're always with us. We love you and thank you. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. So spiritual gifts.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I've been practicing and trying to use my gift of teaching a lot.
Okay.
You could really use that hospitality gift more often and make more cookies, but that's a whole nother topic.
Okay.
So, but you missed a big part of this whole spiritual gifts thing.
Okay.
You didn't tell me how hard it would be sometimes. So, I've been practicing the teaching. And did you know that sometimes people really don't want you to teach them something? Like, I tried to teach somebody how to clean up their room and to put things in the right place, and he didn't like my teaching very much. It didn't work. And then I was trying to teach a group of kids some stuff, and they weren't listening. This teaching thing's just not working for me. I didn't know it would be this hard. And did I remember to say a little prayer? Maybe not. But you know what? It's just hard.
Okay.
Using your spiritual gifts is hard.
Yes.
Hard.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, yes. Sometimes using your spiritual gifts is hard.
You might want to add that earlier the next time.
This reminds me of a Bible character that we're kind of familiar with.
Oh, somebody I already know. Okay.
Somebody you already met. So,
okay.
David. You know David?
David.
Like, he becomes king.
King David.
King David.
King David.
Before he was king, there's another story that we're familiar with. But let me rewind a minute.
Okay.
Because
okay.
Yep. One of David's spiritual gifts is faithfulness.
Yeah.
So
okay.
The definition of faith the gift of faith is more than a belief in Jesus Christ. It's an abiding foundation, a confidence that God is going to work all things together for good.
Okay.
So David had that.
So faith is a belief that God does all things.
He's going to work all things together for good.
For good.
Yep.
For His good and His will.
It's not just saying that I believe God. It's not just saying I believe in God. It's saying I believe God.
Oh, it's almost like trust. There's like a lot of trust in that faith.
It's not just saying, yes, God, you're there. It's saying,
I
believe you,
that God has a plan and it'll be okay.
It'll be okay.
Is that okay?
So,
right,
yes, so David
okay.
had extreme faithfulness. That was his spiritual gift.
Okay.
That was one of his spiritual gifts.
Okay.
His other spiritual gift was servanthood.
Well, that's a new one. What's that one?
Servanthood is the gift of doing for others, to the exclusion of sometimes meeting your own needs. David would go out of his way to meet other people's needs, to do for other people.
Does that mean doing stuff for other people even when it's hard?
Even when it's hard. And sometimes maybe
yucky or annoying.
Or annoying. Maybe
servanthood.
Sometimes you don't get the best food. Maybe sometimes you don't get the best night's sleep. But you're doing for others, even to the exclusion of yourself.
So if I had a guest in my house and I gave them my bed and I slept on the sofa, that'd be like I was serving that servanthood.
Yes, that's the gift of servanthood.
And sometimes it's hard.
So
I don't know, giving up my bed and sleeping on the sofa is that hard. So maybe you have a good story about David.
I do. So, yes. So one of the stories that we know best about David is David and Goliath.
Oh,
when David fights
that 7 foot, however many inches giant.
When he fights Goliath.
Or no, I think he was like 9 feet. Wasn't he like 9? He was super tall. He was super tall.
He was huge.
He was taller than a couple of the dads we know at Kids of Alder's State.
Yes.
And they're tall.
But David had faith. And David showed that faith because he went out. He wasn't scared. I mean, well, he might have been scared, but he didn't show that fear. He knew that God was on his side and God would take care of him. He went up to Goliath and said, "Stop picking on us. I'm here to fight you."
I bet that giant went.
Yeah, because David was just a kid.
David probably was about my size, and if you know me, I'm not very tall.
Yeah,
and the giant was almost twice as tall. So I bet that giant went. Yeah,
and
right.
all of the king's armies, nobody wanted to fight him, but this little shepherd kid was willing to go up and face Goliath.
Ooh, that takes some faith.
That does take some faith and some trust in saying, God, I believe that you will work this out for good.
And I get it. He wanted to serve his people by sacrificing himself so that army would stop picking on his people. That's being a servant to other people.
And serving his people and serving his God to the exclusion of himself. He knew that God would be with him.
Wow.
But he didn't know that God would defeat Goliath.
He didn't know what was going to happen. He just trusted God, which is faith.
God. He might have been killed, but he was willing to say, God, I believe you. I believe you'll be with me. I have faith, and I have servanthood that come what may, I will do this for you and for my people.
Wow.
I have faith and servanthood. That's probably one of the hardest things that he had to do to show his spiritual gifts.
Way harder than what I had to do. I'm just saying, that Bible, I'll tell you what.
Probably right now.
People don't read the Bible, like, there's so much in there that'll help you through whatever's going on in your life right now. It's a really old book. But wow, just thinking about David and Goliath, I'm like, oh. I'll just keep saying oh.
Yeah.
I feel, okay, I get it.
So it may be hard.
Okay.
It may not be as hard as fighting Goliath. But you know what? Sometimes it doesn't have to be as hard as fighting Goliath, but it still feels hard. And that's okay.
Okay.
It can still be hard.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be fighting a giant hard, but it still feels hard.
And you know what? You said something before about God's will, and we don't always know what God's will is. David didn't know that God would kill the giant, and David didn't know that God wanted him to be king later.
He didn't.
Boom!
No.
See? Sometimes you gotta wait to see God's whole plan come to life. That's the hard part. But I'm okay. All right, I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay.
Okay.
So we keep trying.
Okay.
We keep living in that faith that God works all things together for good. Even when using our spiritual gifts is hard, God is working with us for good.
So I feel like even if your spiritual gift isn't faith, you still gotta have faith.
Yeah.
And if you know somebody who's struggling with faith, you should help them, because that's kind of super important in all this. Okay, I'm gonna go.
Okay.
I'm going out there and I'm gonna do this again.
Okay.
Okay. All right, I got it.
Okay.
I'm gone.